When I first met Emily, it felt like everything in my life suddenly made sense. You know how people talk about that magical moment when you just know someone's going to be important? Yeah, that's exactly what it was like. We were at a mutual friend's barbecue, and while the air was thick with the scent of grilled burgers and smoky ribs, I couldn't focus on anything except her. She had this effortless charm, the kind of laugh that made you want to join in even if you didn't hear the joke. It was like I was seeing color for the first time in a world I hadn't realized was grayscale. Our connection was immediate, almost magnetic. One conversation led to another, and before I knew it, I was walking her to her car under a sky that had turned soft pink and orange with the sunset. I'll admit, I played it cool, but inside, I was already imagining our future. A life together, maybe kids one day. It sounds corny, but I couldn't help it. She was that kind of person, someone who makes you want to dream bigger than you ever dared to before. A few months later, we were inseparable. We'd spend our weekends exploring the little hidden gems around town, quirky coffee shops, hiking trails that led to breathtaking views, or even just curling up on the couch binge-watching whatever show we were obsessed with at the time. It was a kind of bliss I hadn't thought was possible. I used to believe relationships were about compromise and hard work, but with Emily, it was different. Everything felt easy, natural, like breathing. Looking back, I realize how much I idealized her. I put her on this pedestal so high that I didn't even consider the possibility she might be human, flawed, and capable of the kind of betrayal that would leave me reeling. But at that time, none of those thoughts crossed my mind. I was too caught up in how perfect everything seemed. Little did I know, life had other plans for us. After about a year of dating, Emily and I decided to take the next big step, moving in together. It felt like the natural progression of our relationship. I remember being so excited, imagining what it'd be like to wake up next to her every morning, to build our own little world in a cozy apartment. And for a while, it was everything I had dreamed it would be. But somewhere along the line, things began to shift. At first, it was so subtle that I didn't even notice. Emily started coming home later than usual. She'd blame it on work or catching up with friends. I'd ask how her day was, and she'd give me these vague answers, like she was on autopilot. Don't get me wrong, she wasn't outright distant, at least, not at first. But there was this unspoken tension in the air, like something invisible was sitting between us. I tried to ignore it, convincing myself that it was just stress. Her job could be demanding, and she'd always been the type to take on more than she could handle. But then, there were other signs I couldn't brush off so easily. She'd guard her phone like it was a vault, always turning the screen away when I was nearby. She started dressing differently, more makeup, new clothes. It was like she was trying to impress someone, and deep down, I knew it wasn't me. One evening, as she stood in front of the mirror fixing her hair for what she called a girls' night out, I asked if everything was okay. She gave me this half-hearted smile and said, "Of course. Why wouldn't it be?" I wanted to believe her so badly that I convinced myself I was just being paranoid. Looking back, I realize I was in denial. The signs were all there, glaring and undeniable. But at the time, I couldn't bring myself to even entertain the thought that something might be wrong between us. I loved her too much to see the truth that was right in front of me. The day I stumbled upon the truth started off just like any other. I was cleaning up around the apartment, a little annoyed because Emily had left in a rush again. She always seemed to be in a hurry lately, like she couldn't wait to get away from home. Her phone was sitting on the kitchen counter, buzzing with notifications. Normally, I wouldn't think twice about it, but something about the way she had been acting recently made me hesitate. I told myself I was just being paranoid. I didn't want to be that guy, the insecure, suspicious boyfriend who snoops through his partner's phone. But then it buzzed again, and this time, the screen lit up with a message preview. It was from someone named Matt, a name I didn't recognize, and it said, "Can't wait to see you tonight." My heart dropped. I stared at the phone, my mind racing. Who was Matt? And why was he so eager to see Emily? I tried to convince myself it was innocent. Maybe he was just a coworker or an old friend. But deep down I knew something wasn't right. I hesitated for what felt like an eternity before finally picking up the phone. I don't know what I was expecting to find, but what I saw confirmed every fear I had been trying to suppress. Their messages weren't just casual. They were intimate, filled with inside jokes, late-night plans, and flirty banter. It was clear that this wasn't just a friendship. It was something more, something that had been going on for a while. I felt a mix of emotions all at once: anger, betrayal, heartbreak. My hands were shaking as I put the phone back down, careful to leave it exactly where it was so she wouldn't know I had seen anything. I sat on the couch, staring at the wall, trying to make sense of what I had just discovered. How could she do this to me? To us? 4 hours, I wrestled with whether to confront her or wait to gather more proof. Part of me wanted to scream, to demand answers right then and there. But another part of me wanted to stay calm, to figure out why this had happened and what I was going to do next. The truth was out, but the hardest part was still ahead. I didn't have to wait long to confront Emily. That evening, she came home like nothing was wrong, tossing her bag onto the chair and flashing me that familiar smile. It was the same smile I had fallen for all those months ago, but now it felt like a lie. I couldn't look at her without hearing Matt's name echoing in my head. I tried to keep calm, but my emotions were boiling just under the surface. "How was your day?" I asked, my voice tighter than I intended. She didn't seem to notice, casually mentioning how busy work had been and how she'd grabbed drinks with her coworkers afterward. I let her talk, watching her every move, searching for any crack in her story. It was like I was seeing her for the first time, not as the woman I loved, but as someone I couldn't trust. Finally, I couldn't hold it in anymore. "Who's Matt?" I asked, my voice low but firm. The question hung in the air like a storm cloud, and for a moment, her expression froze. She quickly recovered, but not fast enough for me to miss the flicker of panic in her eyes. "What do you mean?" she replied, her voice too casual, too rehearsed. "He's just a guy from work." I nodded slowly, pretending to accept her answer. "Just a guy from work," I repeated, more to myself than to her. "Funny, because I saw your messages. Doesn't seem like he's just a guy from work." Her face went pale, and she opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. For a moment, we just stood there in silence, the weight of the truth crashing down around us. Finally, she managed to stammer, "You went through my phone?" I let out a bitter laugh. "That's what you're upset about? Not the fact that you've been sneaking around behind my back." My voice was shaking now, anger and heartbreak spilling out with every word. "How long has this been going on, Emily? How long have you been lying to me?" She started crying then, big, dramatic sobs that might have worked on me a few weeks ago, but not anymore. "It's not what you think," she said through her tears. "Matt and it's complicated. Complicated," I repeated, my voice dripping with disbelief. "You've been cheating on me, and you're calling it complicated? Do you even hear yourself right now?" I wanted to yell, to scream, to say things I knew I'd regret. But instead, I just stood there, staring at the woman I thought I knew, wondering how everything had fallen apart so quickly. Emily's tears kept falling as she tried to explain herself, but every word out of her mouth felt like a dagger. "It wasn't supposed to happen," she said, her voice cracking. "Matt and we just got close at work. It was harmless at first." "Harmless?" I shot back, unable to hide the disbelief in my voice. "You've been sneaking around, lying to my face, and you call that harmless?" She looked away, biting her lip like she was trying to come up with something to say, but nothing she said would have made it any better. I felt like I was drowning, like every part of my life that I thought was stable was crumbling before my eyes. This wasn't just some mistake or a misunderstanding. This was a betrayal, plain and simple. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I love you, I really do. But things got complicated." There it was again, complicated. Like that one word was supposed to make me understand why she had chosen to destroy everything we had built together. "Stop saying that," I snapped, my voice rising. "You don't get to brush this off as complicated. You made a choice, Emily. You chose to cheat. You chose to lie." She flinched, but I didn't care. I couldn't hold back anymore. "Do you even know what you've done to me? To us? I gave you everything. I trusted you. I loved you. And this is how you repay me." For the first time since the conversation started, she didn't have a response. She just stood there, tears streaming down her face, looking as broken as I felt. But I didn't feel sorry for her. Not in that moment. I couldn't. I don't even know who you are anymore, I said, my voice quieter now but no less angry. The woman I fell in love with would never have done this. She would have respected me enough to at least be honest. Emily tried to reach out, her hand trembling, but I took a step back. I couldn't let her touch me, not after everything I had just learned. Don't, I said, my voice sharp. You've done enough. The room fell silent again, the kind of silence that feels heavy, suffocating. I didn't know what to do or where to go from here. All I knew was that nothing would ever be the same. After that night, things between Emily and me were tense, to say the least. She begged me not to leave, pleading for another chance, saying she'd do anything to make things right. I'll cut all contact with Matt, she promised. I'll quit my job if I have to. Please, just don't give up on us. Part of me wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that she was sorry, that this was just a horrible mistake we could somehow move past. But the other part of me, the part that couldn't stop replaying her messages to Matt in my head, knew it wasn't that simple. Trust is like glass. Once it's shattered, even if you try to piece it back together, it's never the same. We tried, though. Or at least, I tried to convince myself that we were trying. Emily deleted Matt's number, blocked him on social media, and even started coming straight home after work. On the surface, it looked like she was making an effort. But beneath it all, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still off. The way she avoided eye contact, the way she seemed so desperate to prove herself, it didn't feel genuine. It felt like guilt. And then there was me. I thought I could move past it if I just gave it enough time, but the betrayal lingered like a shadow I couldn't escape. Every time she smiled at me, I wondered if she had smiled like that at him. Every time she touched me, I wondered if he had felt her touch too. It was like a poison, eating away at me, turning every happy memory we had into a painful reminder of what she had done. One night, as we sat on the couch watching a movie, I found myself staring at her instead of the screen. She looked so normal, so calm, like nothing had happened. And that's when it hit me. I didn't know if I could ever feel the same way about her again. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the image of her with someone else. It was like a wall had been built between us, and no matter how much I wanted to tear it down, I didn't know how. I don't know if I can do this, I said suddenly, my voice breaking the silence. Emily turned to me, her eyes wide with fear. What do you mean? I mean, us. I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. Her face crumpled, and she started crying, but this time, her tears didn't affect me the way they used to. I felt numb, like I had already lost her, even though she was sitting right next to me. I love you, she said through her sobs. I know I messed up, but I love you. Isn't that enough? I didn't have an answer. Maybe it should have been. But in that moment, it didn't feel like it was. Over the next few weeks, I felt like I was living in a constant state of limbo. Emily tried her best to prove she was sorry, cooking dinner every night, leaving little notes for me to find, and constantly asking how I was feeling. But no matter what she did, it always felt like an apology that didn't quite reach my heart. I started avoiding her without even realizing it. I'd come home late from work, claiming I had extra projects to finish, when really, I was just driving around aimlessly, trying to figure out what I wanted. I didn't want to face her. I didn't want to face the reality of what our relationship had become. I felt trapped, torn between the love I used to have for her and the betrayal that had replaced it. Then came the night everything finally broke. Emily and I were having dinner, her attempt at rekindling some semblance of normalcy. She had lit candles, cooked my favorite meal, and even put on the necklace I had given her for our anniversary. But instead of feeling touched, I felt suffocated. It was like she was trying to erase what had happened, as if a romantic dinner could make me forget everything. We ate in silence, the sound of clinking silverware the only thing filling the room. Finally, she put down her fork and looked at me. "We can't keep doing this," she said softly. I looked up, surprised. "Doing what?" "This, pretending everything's okay. I can see it in your eyes, the way you look at me now. You're not happy. And I don't think you ever will be." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut because she was right. I wasn't happy. I hadn't been happy for a long time. But hearing her say it out loud made it feel real in a way I wasn't ready to confront. I don't know what you want me to say, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. I'm trying, Emily. I really am. But every time I look at you, all I can think about is him. I can't get it out of my head. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she didn't look away. I hate what I did to you. I hate myself for it. But if you can't forgive me, if you can't move past it, then maybe we shouldn't be doing this anymore. I stared at her, stunned. Was this her way of giving up? Or was it her way of setting me free? Either way, it felt like the final nail in the coffin of what we used to be. For a moment, I considered fighting for us. I considered telling her we could still fix it, that love was enough to overcome anything. But deep down, I knew it wasn't true. Love alone wasn't enough, not when trust was gone, not when every moment with her felt like a reminder of what I had lost. I think you're right, I said finally, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. Maybe we shouldn't. After that night, Emily and I agreed it was time to go our separate ways. It wasn't an easy decision. Far from it. We had spent years building a life together, and the thought of letting it all go felt like ripping a piece of my heart out. But as much as it hurt, staying together would have been worse. We both knew it. The next few weeks were a blur of packing boxes, dividing up furniture, and sorting through all the little things that had once been ours. It was strange, looking at the life we had built and realizing how quickly it had unraveled. Every photo, every keepsake felt like a reminder of what we had lost, of the promises we had broken. I kept telling myself it was for the best, but that didn't make it any less painful. Emily moved out first, taking a job in another city to get a fresh start. I stayed behind, surrounded by the ghosts of our relationship. At first, it was unbearable. I'd walk into the living room and see her favorite blanket on the couch, or open the fridge and find the almond milk she used to insist on buying. Everywhere I looked, there was a reminder of her, of us. But slowly, things began to change. I started spending more time with friends, throwing myself into work, and rediscovering hobbies I had neglected during our relationship. It wasn't easy, and there were still nights when I'd lie awake, wondering if I had made the right choice. But little by little, I started to feel like myself again. Looking back, I can see now that what happened with Emily wasn't just the end of our relationship, it was a turning point for me. It forced me to confront some hard truths about love, trust, and what I really wanted in a partner. It made me realize that love isn't just about chemistry or connection. It's about respect, honesty, and the ability to weather life's storms together. I don't hate Emily. I don't even think I blame her anymore. She made a mistake, a big one, but she's only human. We both are. And as much as it hurt, her betrayal taught me something valuable, that I deserve to be with someone who values me, who chooses me, and who never makes me feel like I'm not enough. Now, I'm in a better place. I've started dating again, cautiously at first, but with a renewed sense of what I'm looking for. And while I don't know what the future holds, I do know one thing. I won't settle for anything less than the love and trust one deserve. Thank you for visited my YouTube channel. Your support, likes, and comments truly inspire me to create even more engaging content. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. You're a part of this amazing community, and I'm thrilled to share my stories with you. See you in the next video on YouTube.